Alright, hello everyone. We are here with Grandma Tanner today. Once again, 3 o'clock on Thursday. We have a live video post every week. She'll be cooking a fresh apple pound cake. She made one yesterday and then she'll show you how to do it today. So Grandma Tanner, go ahead.
Well, first of all, the recipe says you can put it in a bundt pan or a 9x13. So I chose the 9x13. It doesn't take quite as long to bake. And all these employees around here are going to want to eat some when I'm all done. So what I use when I bake is it's non-stick bakery spray. Advertising for this company.
Where do you get that?
I think I got it at Kroger. So you just spray your pan a little bit. Get that all ready. So your pan's ready, and then you turn your oven on to 350. Now if you're doing a bundt pan, you do it at 325 for 1 hour and 10 minutes, or a 9x13 at 350 for 45 minutes. So the recipe calls for 3 eggs. Now we have these gorgeous eggs on our farm. We got these chickens in April through the mail, and I got about 6 or 8 different kinds of chickens, and they are laying all these beautiful eggs. Here's a pink and a green and a kind of a, different shades of brown, and they're just really nice fresh eggs. So I went out there and gathered some today, and that's what we're going to use in this cake. Can't get any fresher than that. So it calls for 3 eggs. Got to be careful so you don't get any
shells in there.
Shells in there, that's right. Now yesterday I made this recipe, and since they're smaller eggs, because these are pullets, what they call pullets, and they will lay smaller eggs. So I used 4 yesterday. But I think today I chose to use a little bigger eggs. They're real nice and plump there. You can't get any better than a nice fresh farm egg. So what I like to do is put the eggs in there first and whip those eggs up so they're real fluffy. Now this is going to be a little noisy, but before you put the sugar and the oil in there. Then it calls for 2 cups of sugar, which, to save a little bit of time, I went ahead and measured this out. And I have 2 cups of sugar in here.
No wonder we can never find anything in her fridge. She's got it all in Cool Whip containers.
Yeah, except that was the oil. I think this is the sugar here. Yep, 2 cups of sugar. So, I've already measured it, so it's right at 2 cups. You do kind of want to measure things fairly accurate, otherwise things don't turn out. So you blend that eggs and sugar real well, and get nice and fluffy. See how creamy it looks? Now after you get that all blended, then you put the oil in. And it's 1.5 cups. It says corn oil, but you can use any kind of vegetable oil. So you just pour that in there and blend that all together. Get rid of those. Blend that real good. Now I did tell you to turn the oven on, which I did. So now it's 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and these little baking soda containers, they have a nice little thing right in there. You can just level it off and throw it in there. 1 teaspoon of salt, sprinkle that in there. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, except this doesn't fit in there, but so I'll just pour a little bit in there. So it's about a teaspoon, close enough. 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now this Mexican vanilla we sell here at the orchard. We sell a lot of it. It's not cheap. It's not imitation vanilla. It is the real deal.
And we use that in our caramel for our caramel apples, our caramel sauce too. So we
Yes.
buy it by the gallon and use it ourselves. It is a really good vanilla.
And sometimes the vanilla is really what makes things taste so good. Our recipe on those caramel apples, the original recipe did not call for vanilla. But my mother always made caramel candy, and she always used vanilla in it. And I think that really adds to it. Okay, so I have all the seasoning in there. So I'm going to turn this thing on again. It's that nice tan color. And then I will add the flour. I pre-measured this to 3 cups. I got my frosting over here melting, so I'm going to turn that off. So when you put the flour in, just add a little bit at a time and blend it. This will get very thick. Uh-oh. Lost a little there. You just keep beating it. Okay, I'm going to shut it off and scoop this flour up here. And add 1 cup of apples. Now that will make it a little bit more moist, be easier to. Just keep pushing that down.
You got my apples flying.
Those little apples are just jumping. That was 1 cup of apples. It calls for 3 cups.
Now Now we slice those apples beforehand, and you want to show them how you cut those apples up real quick there, Mom? Or I mean, Grandma?
I kind of like to do it with these little slicers. We sell these slicers. And then you take each slice and peel it. It makes it a lot easier because cutting up these apples probably takes you the most time to make this cake. And you just cut it like that. I'm just going to put another slice in here.
And what kind of apples did you use?
This was golden. What I did was used one golden, one John Gold, and one Jonathan. It's kind of like when you make a pie, apple pie. It's kind of fun to mix your apples up. Use different kinds.
You get different flavors that way.
Different flavors, and that's how we do our cider. We usually use at least 5 varieties, and sometimes 6. As those apples get mixed in there, it seems like the batter gets a little bit more moist. You just keep mixing. Okay, those are mixed real well. And then the recipe calls for 1 cup of pecans. So I went over to the bakery and got these pecans because we buy these in 30-pound boxes for the top of our caramel apple nut pie and a lot of our breads. They're really good quality pecans that we use.
Apple tea cake, one of my favorites.
Yes. You blend those pecans in there real good.
Now, can they leave the pecans out if they don't like the nuts?
Yes, they can. Yeah, some people are allergic to nuts and they can't have these. So I think this is blended pretty good. Now some people have a big mixer that they have on a stand. I used to have one of those, but I just went to this little one. So to get all that off of there, when I used to make a cake and all that, this was my kids' favorite. Was the slurk on those beaters. Okay, so now it's all ready to be put in the cake pan. That's why you have your cake pan all ready.
She sprayed that before we...
I sprayed that with a special kind of spray, just for baking.
Somebody made the red hots and apples with ice cream last night.
Oh, that is so good. It's a nice dessert and it's not that many calories.
Until maybe you add the ice cream.
Oh, yeah, if you add the ice cream. You could get sugar-free Cool Whip or something like that.
Nah, just get the full flavored ice cream.
So this just went right in that pan real easy. Filled that pan pretty good.
Oh, Marty's watching, Grandma.
Oh, Marty.
Good wine.
Oh, that's great.
She's a cousin of ours.
Yes.
Or she's Grandma's.
Actually, this recipe, maybe she's even got it, was Grandma Tanner's. Jenny and Marty's grandmother, my husband's mother. And so it was one of her favorites. You put the sauce over the top. Now it's all ready. There's lots of apples in there, pecans, all that good stuff. So it's going to bake now for 45 minutes. Now, I made a cake last night, or yesterday, and this is what it looks like. Now, mine sunk in just a little bit, so I went online to figure out why my cake sunk in the middle. And it said, you maybe have too much moisture in it. So, yesterday, I did use 4 eggs, because these pullet eggs are kind of small. Aren't they just the prettiest little eggs you ever saw? So I used 4 of them, and I thought, well, maybe that's too much moisture. So I cut back on 1 egg. But anyway, this is what it looks like. And then to make this topping on it, you use 1/2 cup butter or margarine, 1/2 cup firmly packed light brown sugar, and 2 teaspoons of milk. So I've got my butter all melted over here. And the way I measure, sometimes if you just need a small amount of brown sugar, you just scoop it in the pan and then you press it in. You pack it in there real good. And add 2 teaspoons of milk. Turn that back on. Now, one thing I really like, this little thing right here, to stir sauces and all kinds of things. You get flat on the bottom, and it doesn't burn. Like banana cream pie, that's one that can burn real easy. Turn that up a little bit. So you bring this to a boil, and it'll get kind of thick. But this is really, there's no calories in this, of course. We throw them in the garbage disposal, the calories. But this makes a really good topping on an apple pound cake. I think you just bring it to a boil and then it gets thick. And you can pour it over your cake. Sometimes you can bring that cake out of the oven while it is still warm, and you puncture a few little holes in there, and this caramel will go right down in there. So, let me see, where's that little knife at? Right there. I'll use this knife, and you just puncture a few holes in there like that. I got some employees out there that are just waiting for this cake to be done. They always want to know what I'm cooking so they can get a sample.
Ryan, he always comes in and asks, what are we cooking today? I said, oh, Ryan, we're making apple cake. He goes, oh, I love cake. I think he loves everything.
You know, those teenagers there, they've got a hole in their stomach that just keeps going. You keep them full, they'll just keep working for you. They just love it.
How's that coming?
Well, it's just starting to boil.
I will, Megan. I don't think it's happening, but I'll tell her.
Wait until it boils, and then you just pour that over your cake.
One lady says the cake could have sank because it might have been overmixed.
Oh, maybe that's it. Okay, here's my glaze. It's all boiling.
We don't care. It all tastes the same.
Yeah. Okay, all done with my little mixer. And we'll just drizzle this over this cake. Now this is really good if you put a little ice cream or Cool Whip or something like that on there. Serve that. This just makes a nice dessert. If you want to go somewhere in the fall of the year, it's a beautiful fall dessert.
Your spatula.
Yep. Okay.
And then do you let that cool a little bit, the
Yeah, you
frosting?
just let it cool, and you take a little spoon and you just kind of shove it around and get it in all those little cracks. And I'm sure the bakery will be glad to give the kids all a little slurp of, a little dip of ice cream with that. So that's your apple pound cake. And in about 35 minutes, this other one will be done. So I'm sure glad you came to watch how to make the apple pound cake today.
All right.
Using Tanner's apples.
Thank you, Grandma Tanner. Well, we'll be, I'll put the recipe on here in a bit. I'll put it on a post, and then I'll try to put it in the comments also. And another thing we're planning for next year is we are going to do another cookbook. So if anybody has some recipes using any of our products that we sell in the market, a really good apple recipe, if you'd like to have a chance to be put in our cookbook, please send it to our email, which is info@tannersorchard.com, and we'll be sampling these this fall and into the winter, and be putting them when we make our cookbook, and if it's okay, we'll use your name on the end of it. So thanks everyone for watching. I'm going to go get myself a piece of this apple cake.